Think of this as a power walking tour of the Magical Museum of Mysticism. Can't get enough of these thunder crashes. Or at least most of what our culture would consider mysticism. It's going to feel like a lot, guys. Just drink it in. Just take whatever you can get out of it and enjoy the tour. The deeper knowledge and key understandings that the mystics are operating on are represented across every single major world religion. However, those same symbols and principles are either diminished, if not completely detached from their true significance in the way they are taught to the public. This is the distinction between esoteric and exoteric. Exoteric is the surface belief. Esoteric is the higher knowing. For starters, let's define who we're talking about when we say the mystics, and more importantly, who we are not. Now, the mystics exist in every religion. Abraham, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, the Prophet Muhammad. No pictures! Lao Tzu, Indian yogas, indigenous shaman, medicine men, as well as all the deities that various religions encapsulate. Act accordingly. In fact, I have many capable mystics in my midst. I just build little roadblocks for myself. It's fun. Mystics are those who have set on the path of seeking truth and alignment with the Creator in practical action and embodiment. They study the teachings and wisdoms and principles of the greater expressions of reality and the laws of nature, using tools like meditation, astrology, tarot, numerology, which is basically just math, qigong, energy work, divination, music, and many other forms of symbolic practical engagement with creation. Often, throughout history, these people were hunted and silenced for fear of them spreading the understanding to the otherwise ignorant greater public, whose subservience whatever ruling power at the given point in history relied upon. They are the great myths and religious narratives of those few in our history who have gotten so far as to engage more directly with these energies. You would recognize some of them as famous historical figures, brilliant minds, famous artists, leaders of movements. Many you will never know of, as they studied and developed in solitude. Most, on good advice, kept their practices private, but wrote books and met with other inquisitive minds, etc. But make no mistake, this knowledge is for everyone, and we are serving it up. Who are not the mystics? Any run-of-the-mill brotherhood, secret society, Rotary Club, anyone who is a self-proclaimed guru of anything. Illuminati bitches ain't shit at this point. Templars and Rosicrucianists were cool, but the Freemasons ruined it. Most significant figures in politics and entertainment have either the most base or zero understanding of any of this. If you want to know who's in the Illuminati, examine who benefits from the suffering of the collective. Most importantly, it doesn't matter who else is a mystic. Because look at you guys, you're all in a cult now. You're growing more mystical by the moment. Let's start simple. Detachment. Now, this is an important concept that's recklessly thrown around in very shallow mindfulness pools, often explained as detachment from needs, but then provided approximately, once again, no further clarity on that concept. Unhealthy detachment looks like depression, deep addiction, complete disengagement with the outside world, or chaos and nihilism, because people are like, nothing matters, anarchy! No anarchy. Bad member of the collective. Now, healthy detachment is detachment from the need for your engagement in the world to go exactly as you think or expect it should. Detachment from expectation, because that narrows your ability to collaborate. Once you detach from expectation, you are able to function simply as the observer. Ooh, mystical and vague. I know. Moving on. We'll hear more about this observer later. As above, so below. As within, so without. Now, we saw this in application with the freaking cosmic nesting dolls. We hear this nonstop from the mystics. There are many accurate and applicable interpretations. You will have my definition in good time. But for now, understand, just as the very cells and atoms that comprise our very beings have no understanding of the greater entity they make up, so too are we woefully unaware of the greater system we are a direct part of. But we're all changing that. Transmutation. This is a wild one, because this is what a lot of people get attracted to this stuff for. This is lead into gold, the Midas touch. So let's touch this. Because this is the Sorcerer's Stone, the treasure that all the mystic seekers were told they were seeking, the ability to transform lead into gold. What you come to understand is that as you actually progress along this path, the value we place in the material is not valuable in the greater structure. But the parallel, as above, so below, still stands. When you arrive at the answer to this riddle, you realize that the proverbial lead you are transforming is far more valuable than gold. Numerology! Math before it was math. Numerology provides the essence at the center of mathematical expression, reality in numbers. Therefore, math is the expression and interaction of life over time. The esoteric meaning in the numbers begins with the zero, the void, the emptiness that is the eternal womb for creation to fill. One is the source of creation that fills that void and offers the single unified unit for all creation to be built from, source. But in order for source to create, it needed to create the concept of other in duality. Two differing but equal forces of the source of creation, the masculine and the feminine. Opposing forces birthed from imbalance in the source. The masculine and the feminine offer the concept of unity, which is the Trinity, the union of the Creator. And it goes on like this. But understand that numerology is not just simply neato math or natural physics. It encapsulates the philosophy of creation and our relationship to it. The way the math moved around, it was like the language of the angels. You guessed it. Foundation. Such good sci-fi. Brilliant sci-fi. Anyway, our literal physical forms as well as our cognitive sense of self are expressed through numerology as a Fibonacci spiral. Yes, this is the golden ratio. It is the mathematical expression that is observable in countless forms throughout nature and the cosmos. As above, so below! This is numerology expressed in physical form and scientifically verifiable. The mathematics of reality. It is the language of numbers. It addresses the question, how does the one become many? It is a system. And with a system, if you know the components to manipulate and their relationship to the greater system, you know how to influence that system. However, this system often breaks people's minds with its simplicity and complexity, as it is the numeric expression of the whole encapsulated across every scale of individual expression, which are all encapsulated in the whole. Now, we understand that to be fractals. Da Vinci identified the fractal relationship of these proportions in the human form. I have identified them in our conceptions of self, in our social circles. It begins with ourself and spirals out from us to greater and greater magnitudes, to our immediate living space, loved ones, families, close friends, and then further out to the circles of our communities, work environments, social, political identities, and status. From there, it spirals out even further to greater forces we are an aspect of, national identity, religious ideology. Each of these is simply a scale of tribalism, not authentic self. When you can move with the grandest expansion of this understanding to arrive at oneness. What is oneness, you ask? Rainn Wilson knows about oneness. David Lynch knew. Terrence Howard actually is examining oneness from quantum physics. Nikola Tesla, Mr. Rogers, Bill Murray very likely knows about oneness. Jim Carrey has been screaming into cameras for years about oneness, and many other philosophers and artists that we have ignored through time. Now, if you take one thing away from all of the strangeness that I am scattering today, please let it be this. Oneness is the simple understanding that we are all connected. What you do to one, you do to all. And when you move with one, you move with the power of all. The freaking Three Musketeers had it. Back to dualistic reality. You get enlightened when I say so. Masculine, feminine. It was actually amidst the lamente of it all that I was studying the conceptions of masculine and feminine expressions in ancient mysticism. It got wild and has remained so. Anyway, the key understanding of these aspects of our energy is not strong or weak, as we often compare them. It's not male or female, as we often conceptualize them in gender, or good or evil, as we conceptualize them in movies, religion, and political vilification. But rather, they are as we observe them in nature, positive and negative, in terms of dual forces of magnetism, active and receptive, as we observed in our senses, masculine and feminine, not good and evil, light and dark. And we can't experience anything without both. But they exist in harmony or they don't exist long in the physical. Now, we all contain the masculine and feminine within it. Oh my God! Say hi to Baphomet. This cat has gotten a really, really bad rap, okay? People think that this is the devil, but this information predates Christianity deciding that the devil is now a goat person after being a serpent, and before that, he was an angel. And even still, if you insist on labeling this figure an enemy, and you acknowledge that you're dealing with a being that can change form, it would behoove you to understand your enemy better. Also best to consider, we are all angels and devils as we so choose. Here, Baphomet is simply showing us the masculine and feminine in each of us. The feminine, coagula, the receptive force of creation, gather, the gentle hand that approaches the world with kindness, understanding, and compassion, a resilient hand, open and graceful, there to lift people up in their hardest times. And then there is the masculine, the active force of creation, solve, dissolve, scatter, powerful and unrelenting. In its extremes, wrathful, often gorilla-balled and vicious. In my time, it has earned me the titles of Knuckles when mishandled. Now, they both reside in all of us, and we are always acting on a spectrum between them, between love and power. Anyone spot the caduceus? The yin and the yang are representing this in very principle in unity and balance. This is from the East. If we examine the human form from above, this is how we would perceive the distribution of masculine and feminine in our physical form. The feminine brain resting above the masculine body. The feminine brain resting above the masculine body, and vice versa. Each contains an aspect of the other within itself. The yin and the yang are the opposing feminine and masculine energies and the fluctuating waveform between them. The fluctuating frequency can be channeled into a stream when both energies are properly balanced, and that energy that they contain in their combination is the infinite energy of creation that we all possess. And it is the highest state of our beings. I came to understand it as the top-down view of the Hermes scepter, the caduceus, rotating, creating torsion, and rising up. They are one and the same. The great healing power of that scepter is the human body and energy network of the spine. We are the healing force. See for yourself in these very bodies. Sacred geometry. Triangles, rectangles, etc. The mathematical relationship that these different geometric forms establish. The circle, the infinite forms that's contained through different relationships within it. What does sacred geometry offer us? The symmetry of stability, balance, and alignment that exists in our environment and the human form. When you come to be more aware of it, you can sense to find within your own being. You can use that symmetry with intention, and you can do this standing, you can do this sitting, you can do it lying down. And once you get a sense of it, you can do it in motion like you've never experienced. The flower of life. Terrence Howard has some brilliant extrapolations on the three-dimensional understanding of this two-dimensional representation on the atomic scale. But I will explain the key concept it's expressing in a spell. Every possible geometric form exists within this pattern, which is to say, all of those forms we find in sacred geometry exist within the structure of the flower of life. It is the template for any material in reality, and the form of pre-matter, dark matter. I know. Let's see what some of the mystical perspectives offer on how this energy exists in our bodies. Mudras. Let's talk about these, because these are absolutely wild. So as mentioned, these immaculate energy pads that we have, these little feelers of the world, are tiny tentacles that most of us are embarrassingly inept with. Each correlate to one hemisphere of our brain. Not only are they tied to our brains, but they are functional replicas of our bodies with corresponding energy points and networks that run through them to the rest of the body. People who have deeply studied ancient and mystical practices of the palms understand that each component of the hands, fingertips, are connected to a different region of your body and brain. When you allow these to connect in different ways, you are essentially creating a circuit and allowing those different components of your brain to connect directly, interact, and communicate energetically. You can explore and create your own mudras. Go nuts. Your chakras. This is an approach to the human energy form long held in India and East Asia. The root chakra, red, base of the spine, the ground floor of support for everything built on top of it, your overall feeling of safety. The sacral chakra, Orange, the pelvis with its energy center in the bowl between your hip joints, sexuality, creativity, your sense of self. The solar plexus chakra. Yellow, between the navel and the diaphragm, your gut, your feeling of connection to the world around you, your self-confidence. Your heart chakra. Green, in the energy center behind your sternum, your emotional center, where you feel love, excitement, pride, anger, all of that fun stuff we've been chirping about. The throat chakra, azure blue, located in the larynx, how you express yourself in the world. Are you free? Are you constricted? The third eye chakra, indigo, located in the middle of your brain, in the pineal gland, your understanding of self, your free will, your imagination. The crown chakra, violet, white, pink, 1,000-petaled lotus blossoming from the top of your head. Each petal is said to be one of the gifts from the divine for you. And we're not done yet! The soul star chakra! This is a vibrant, white, gold sphere that hovers above your head like you're a character from The Sims. Remember that? Who sees it? Anyone spot the caduceus? The tree of life. This is the tree of life, one of the 3 pillars of Kabbalism or mystical Judaism, which originated out of the Hermetic practices of Egypt. This maps the human energy form in a more expansive structure than that of the chakra system. Also, I believe this gives a far more clear breakdown of the physical and energetic integration that exists in these forms. Just as we understand that this picture of a human has assumed mobility in it, so should we understand this structure has assumed mobility within that form. Now, just as we understand the picture of the human form, these energy centers are known as zephyrs. Oh my God, I love the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Where does this energy flow through us? Now, this gives us a mapping of some of the energy centers within our physical form. Look at any system, or does this look like any system we've seen so far running through our body? This leads us to what these cultures offer in the nadis, our energy pathways that exist in our bodies and how they are tied to our physical form. There are 12 main nadis with significant points along each energy path. And when you sense how these lines want to support your body and open up through your breathing, you really get to demystify some shit. This is what the practices of yoga, Tai Chi, and Qigong are designed to help us with. But our cultures mostly use it as a neat, quiet exercise before you get back to the hustle. What and where does all this energy go from us? Out to the quantum field, the unified field, the morphic field, the collective consciousness. Everything, all inanimate material as well as living beings have an energy field that extends out infinitely. We observe this dynamic in our understanding of gravity. Planets, stars, stones, people, creatures, nebulas, and other energetic forms create this overlaid network that each inherently feeds but also draws off of. Essentially, the collective consciousness, senses, feelings, thoughts, as well are being influenced by this field. Now, inanimate matter simply contributes in a neutral way. It is simply existing in the flow with the field in its current state. But people are contributing to it in a positive or a negative polarity. The simplest expression of this is love or fear, respectively, but include all varying expressions of these extremes of the spectrum that we have found ourselves engaging tonight. Love, joy, blah, 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 hate, envy. Therefore, we are inherently attracted by our own actions and contribute to this field. If we feed it fear, we are fed fear back. If we feed it love, we are fed love back. Now, as good a place as any, complete your understanding of the human gaze from the mystical point of view. The human gaze is the very gaze of God. We spend all of our time worrying about the gaze of other people around us because it's looking God in the face. God does not have a single face. It does not need a face. It has many, and any single one would be too limiting for its infinite expressive and expansion. It is looking ourselves truthfully in the face. To look at someone else and with the intimacy, understanding, the myriad of moments, memories, and experiences that is another person, to see the world through that lens in their holistic experience, ego, character. When you can look at someone with that understanding, respect, and reverence, that is a transcendent mindset. Worth noting, God is subduing the figure with his, he is subduing the figure's active hand with his passive hand. Before we move on to a quick break, let's talk about timelines. There are far more than 3 timelines, obviously, but for our examination, let's start by examining 3+ timelines. Timeline 1 is you, and you, and you, and you, and me. It is each of our own unique experience of time, one shimmering speck in this great structure. Timeline 2 is the greater community that is woven of each and every one of those individual timeline 1s that creates a greater, larger timeline that contains all the lower timelines. Fiber, cable through time. And those communities string together, woven within each other as time flows into mega fiber cables, timeline 3s of our greater communities, our states, our nations. They are all scale of timeline observation you want to examine. This scope of timeline can be drawn out as far as our greater experience as one whole collective, not nationally, not divisions of borders or belief or flags or any measure of other, but one. And that is the collective experience. The resulting structure of all these timelines. And ours has been rife with suffering and division for as long as we can remember. And we are all, through shaping our own timelines, contributing to the shape and direction of these higher timelines. Enough timelines 1 can reshape a timeline 2. Enough timeline 2s can reshape the trajectory of a timeline 3, and so on until the trajectory of our world has changed. But to steer the collective, it has to be collective choice. Now, speaking of time, let's all take a minute to refresh ourselves. We'll take a breather, grab a drink, hug our loved ones, go stare into the void, whatever you need. When we come back, we will address the one single linchpin in any and all of us out here, which is death.
Tour de force. Tour de force, man.